And welcome to the Stan Simpson Show, a program about Connecticut people and compelling issues. Make it a point to drop in every week. President Obama laid out his vision once again for a more robust economy. But will his State of the Union address galvanize support for him in the upcoming elections or simply embolden his detractors? Attorney Corey Brinson, a former Hartford City Councilman, and up-and-coming community leader Brandon McGee join us for a talk. In our second segment, it's a video that has gone viral. We'll get reaction from Latino leaders about East Haven Mayor Joseph Maturo's brazen and insensitive comments about Latinos. Marilyn Alvario and Isaias Diaz are in studio for a chat. Then we'll wrap things up with some advice for you pet lovers out there. Interested in adopting a pet? Michelle Stratton from Petco is in studio giving her tips on what you need to know to be a responsible pet owner. But first, the 2012 elections are here. They've started. It's official now. The president gave his address. It kicked off his campaign. Corey Brinson, former Republican city councilman, attorney. Brandon McGee, up-and-coming community leader with the Urban Alliance, Republican, Democrat. All right. Get some reactions to the president's speech. We'll start with the Republican here to my left. Your thoughts? Did he knock it out the park?
I think the president did a good job of delivering his points. I think there's just a wide philosophical divide and gap on whether millionaires need to be paid more in taxes or whether we need to cut taxes for everybody and cut the size of government. And so you had to agree with his premise to agree with his points, and I did.
What point resonated with you, Brandon McGee, up-and-coming Democratic community leader, politician in the waiting?
Listen, an American built to last, built to last. I think the president did a great job laying out his plans for the United States and on a more practical level for Americans to really understand how do we get people back to work, how do we address this tax issue, but most importantly, how do we work alongside those that are hurting? And so his situational room example of him sitting in the room with Hillary and some folks from the Republican Party during that time when the point is how do we work alongside each other? How do we collaborate? And it was really, really profound how he was able to tie all of those loose ends together.
All right, I have a question for the president and a question for Republicans. First for the president. What took you so long, man? You've been in there 4 years. These are nice ideas. You know, if I'm someone who's undecided here, I'm like, wait a minute. Now you've been in there 4 years. These are new ideas. Where were these ideas the last 4 years? How do you respond to that?
Well, to be quite honest with you, I figured Councilman here was going to chime in. But, I mean, when you have a divided party that's, you know, their ultimate goal is how do I attack this man? Right. From left to right, I don't care if he's doing whatever it is to make this country better. You know, when you don't have folks working with each other, it's hard to accomplish any of the goals. And, I mean, we can talk for hours about some of the plans and the accomplishments that he had set forth, but my point is, it was hard to work. So, but I think he listed the accomplishments clearly during the State of the Union address.
My question, go ahead.
Yeah, I love the fact that we have a black president in America, but blacks in America have to be honest with ourselves. And if you look at the unemployment rates in the black community and the unemployment rates of black men in this country is sky high. And ultimately, you gotta say to the president, you know, what have you done for me and my community? And so,
are you better off 4 years ago, right?
And I can't say that the black community is better off 4 years ago under Barack Obama. And so, I do think it's important that we do get people back to work. I like to think the Republicans have a better plan, but the numbers don't lie if you look at the unemployment rates in our community.
All right, my question for the Republicans now is, people know politics that's on the table, right? But can't Republicans come together on at least a few items to move the ball forward? The feeling out there is that the country is stalling because of politics, that there are good bills out there that should be passed, but they're not because of politics, and that's wrong. as Republicans, how do you respond to that perception?
Some call it politics and others call it philosophy. There is a difference, and because
filibustering, some call it too, right?
right, and that's the other piece, right? But it's important that folks understand that elections have consequences, and right now the Republicans have the majority in the House, and therefore they get to control House bills move through Congress, and that's how the government was set up to create, so that things do move slowly. It is difficult to move things, and the Democrats will have to get their numbers up in 2012, but I think you're going to see the Republicans continue to grow their numbers in the House.
But it's going to be a chess game now. If the Republicans win the presidential seat, then you have the Senate being controlled by the Democrats, and you have the same dance and waiting 4 more years for the guy to fail, and meanwhile the country languishes. Let's take a look at the president real quick and go to Brandon. Let's take a look at the president and get a quick soundbite from his State of the Union address this week.
But I intend to fight obstruction with action, and I will oppose any effort to return to the very same policies that brought on this economic crisis in the first place.
All right, Brandon, you had some thoughts. You were going to chime in.
A lot of thoughts.
Go ahead.
But I think
about 3
Obama's.
minutes.
I think Obama's point was simple. Partisan politics should not matter when people are facing dire times. And so, you know, when we talk about Republicans or Democrats, it's really how do we get back to the issues of the people? And granted, yes, I'm a Democrat, and I'm a Democrat to the heart, but, you know, it seems to me that the GOP, those folks are going to have, they're fumbling over each other. So, you know, how do we get to the real issue is my question.
We have about 2 minutes left. I want to show you the agenda for the president, and we'll talk quickly about each bullet point. The economy now, the issue of expansion, of not having corporations benefit from sending jobs overseas, and in fact giving them a penalty if they do. Isn't that something that Democrats and Republicans can agree on? Is that a reasonable? And that's not a new idea, by the way. Why can't both parties agree on that?
I like the idea of rewarding a company that creates jobs here. I don't like the idea of penalizing a company for making a business decision to send a job somewhere else.
Well, how about this? Maybe penalize is the wrong word, but if you cannot get a tax break, maybe that's not a penalty, but you don't get a perk. How about that? Because you're not really being penalized, you just don't get a perk in about a minute.
I agree with that.
And I'm okay with that.
Okay, next one. Taxes. The rich need to pay their fair share. Can't Republicans and Democrats agree that there should be some equity? If Mitt Romney's paying 15% of his taxes and everyone else pays 35%, isn't that patently unfair?
The way it's framed is never, the way they frame that issue is never right, because the top 1% of income earners in the country, and hopefully one day I'll get into that group, pay.
I'd like to join you.
Hopefully we'll get there, but pays like 25% of the federal income taxes, so there's already a disproportion. Like Mitt Romney paid a small percentage, but he paid $3 million.
All right, real quick, we have 2 more points. All companies. He's saying, you know what, enough subsidizing. You guys are generating billions in profits. No more subsidies for all companies. Can you guys concur? 30 seconds. Can you guys concur, Republican and Democrat, that the subsidies for all companies, do away with them, put them toward clean energy initiatives?
Well, what's interesting is the president actually didn't talk too much about any environmental issues. It was really
or healthcare,
for that matter. It was really jobs and focusing on training programs, and so really getting to those practical matters. So I really can't speak to that particular.
No subsidies for oil companies.
Hey, Mike, I'm going to steal like 30 more seconds. Immigration, underreported issue. He really mentioned the DREAM Act by saying that students who are here through no fault of their own, who are doing well, there has to be a policy that keeps those students here and productive. Can't Republicans and Democrats agree on that?
Our party has to embrace the immigration issue in a way so we don't lose the Latino vote for the next 50 years. So we do need to be flexible on that issue.
We can't throw kids out who are here, we're doing well, getting A's and B's. Are we going to throw them out? Is that the policy we want?
No, absolutely not. I think people are humans. So regardless of an election, and winning, you know, it's really how do we address the issue and how do we come to some sort of a compromise that will really address this concern.
Brandon McGee, up-and-coming Democrat. Corey Brinson, up-and-coming Republican. When we come back, we'll talk about a video that has gone viral, folks. Latinos respond to the insensitive comments made by East Haven Mayor Joseph Baturo. You are watching the Stan Simpson Show. Catch us online 24/7, ctnow.com/Stan. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter. Don't go away.